Is there amplification on it?
Oh, you know, I guess it would help if I turned it up, right?
Yep. Okay. So the first song I'll do is called, what's it called? It's called, got the name of the song, but it's about Leonard Peltier and his long-term struggle to be free from a federal prison. He was part of the AIM movement in the 60s and 70s. And on the Pine Ridge Reservation, he was falsely accused of shooting 2 FBI agents or 2 accomplices. And he, with his 2 accomplices, started a trial in which he decided to run, and he shouldn't have, because his 2 accomplices were found to be not guilty due to lack of evidence. But he ran to Canada, and U.S. Marshals brought him back and put him in front of a different district and a hostile judge, and he remains in prison since the late 70s, now at a very delicate age of 81. And they're trying to win his freedom through either a pardon or a parole hearing this year, but I don't think either is going to happen. Anyways, a little more backstory is that after I had wanted to write about him for several years, and nothing came out until a few years ago. And as we know in the writing business, you know, when it has that divine moment of inspiration and you grab it and write it down, or you lose it forever. So after I wrote it, I recorded it and sent it to a group in Rapid City, South Dakota, a group that were vying for his freedom. And they immediately shot back and said, "Would you come down to Washington and perform at the mall?" And I said, you know, I had to go. They didn't give me a mall spot, but it was the next day at a press conference in front of the White House, and I performed it there and was humbled to do so. Mr. President, please pardon Leonard Peltier. He spent his life in prison. His trial wasn't fair. Mr. President, pardon Leonard Peltier. In prison like an animal, 45 plus years. On the Pine Ridge Reservation in 1975, protecting his people from the goons and FBI, as many were murdered on the Pine Ridge that year. Mr. President, free Leonard Peltier. The trial was a travesty, he didn't have a chance. 2 agents shot dead on the Jumping Bow Ranch. Prosecution gave false testimony of the murder scene. They pinned it on Leonard as in a bad dream. Mr. President, pardon Leonard Peltier. He spent his life in prison. His trial wasn't fair. Mr. President, pardon Leonard Peltier. In prison like an animal, 45 plus years. Myrtle, poor bear, a girl testified. Lied, said she dated Len, then said he did the crime. And later recanted, confessing her lies. Mr. President, give Leonard back his time. Rudo, Butler, and Peltier, all 3 charged with the crime. First 2 found not guilty, neither did no time. So they pinned it all on Leonard, someone had to pay. Mr. President, free Leonard without delay. Leonard ran from the scene, later found up north. They brought him back from Canada, they brought him back by force. They brought him back from Canada to face another judge who wanted someone to convict with a solitary grudge. Mr. President, pardon our Peltier. He spent his life in prison, his trial wasn't fair. Mr. President, pardon our Peltier. In prison like a